Hi, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to show you the different methods I have for ending a granny square and starting a granny square row. Well, so ending and starting the rows. I've actually just undone the last threads of one of my granny squares. I literally have a basket here, so I just grab one of them. I tend to work in all the threads at the end of the work, so they just all gather up, and I put them in a basket, and then with a good lighting I will work all those away. My method for starting and ending, even though this is a demonstration for granny squares, it can also be on the round, and it can even be in, let me get a more complicated pattern. Let me see. So these are the simple ones, but even if it was a more complicated pattern, I try and do it in the same way. I'll be showing you the first method, where I literally pull out the thread and it creates like a little knot. So it doesn't really matter what the pattern is. It's just a technique that I use. I have been investigating a new technique with these latest squares, and I will show you that on the second square. So let me show you my standard technique on how I end a granny square row to change colors. So this one is a compact granny square. There's a cluster of 3 or a group of 3 per hole with no chains in the middle and 1 chain in the corner. When I start my row, my preference is not to start in a corner, but next to a corner. And I do first 2 double, in this case double crochet, US terms. I don't know what the British terms are, maybe treble, I'm not too sure. So I do 2 double crochets, and then when I come back, now I've done my 3 in the corner, I will literally make 1 more double crochet in here, whoops, and then I will just pull the yarn out. So even if I do a very complicated pattern, once I've completed all the stitches, I pull the yarn out. Now I find this, I just like this method, and you think, oh well, that can come loose, but look, if you pull it out like that, here it will come loose, yes, but on that side it's still creating a knot. So once I have that, I will then sew it in with a pin, with a sharp darning needle, or what they call a tapestry needle, and I'll show you that afterwards. Here's my other method of coming to an end of a row. This one I've been exploring recently. It's also how I've been changing colors for this particular granny square. So this is my 3rd row, so there will be 3 in this cluster. The first row had 2, but these ones have 3 simply because I was stepping up. So 3, 3, 3, come in, do the second one, do the 3rd one, and this is where the method differs. What I've been doing to step up the rows is I have been slip stitching across in the top V until I get to the next hole, and then I've been creating my next stitch. I chain 1, and that is now my first double crochet for the row, and then I'll make the next double crochet and I will continue. So that's how I've been stepping up. But if I'm changing colors, so I'm coming to the end of my row, and my old technique was to just simply pull it through, but this time recently I've been slip stitching across And instead of creating the new stitch for the next row, I've just slip stitched one further and then pulled through. When I work the next row of colors, it's going to be over this and over that. Once I have pulled it through, so we'll come back to this one. Once I've pulled it through, I use a sharp pointed needle. It's called the tapestry needle. And I use the back of the tapestry needle, find the top of that starter stitch there, go through the V, pull it out, go through this V, pull it out. Then I will work with a sharp pointed needle, I will work it away, hold it there. Funny being on camera, I get all nervous, because normally I just do this without thinking. There we go. That's my starter yarn there, you can see there the tail. And then I'll leave this, and then later on I'll come work all the ends away. I like to work the ends away. I go the rule of 3 as far as possible. So I'd work into here, I would work back, and then I'd work again. And I like to start my new color near a corner, so that I can work into this large section, which I call a worm. A small worm, there's a big worm. So this one over here, I'll work into that worm. This one over here, I'll probably go, this one will go into this worm here, and this one will go into that worm. So it actually becomes quite interesting on where to work the worm. So there's 2 reds, the one will go into the one worm, the other one will go into the other worm. So let's come back to this one. So I've pulled it through. Take the yarn, go through the hole. Now this one does have a distinct back and front. These ones, I change direction for each, or change sides for each row, so there is no back and front. So I'm very, very careful, even on both of them, but I'm really careful that you cannot see where I've worked it away. When the square is finished, here's some hexagons. When it's finished, you cannot tell where it's been worked away, and that's how I like it. So it doesn't really matter what the pattern is. I do like it if it's completely reversible, in the sense that you know you don't see all kinds of threads. So now I've come to what is in theory the back of the square. Sharp pointed, so I can really break into the yarns. I untwist it as much as possible, so now the yarns are, as you can see, broken up. And I'll work down till I get to a worm. Hold it nicely in place, otherwise it's going to distort your stitch. And then you just work it through the worms. You go back and forth. You don't go back and forth inside the worm, you'll go up a little bit like this. You'll come down, going back in the worm like that. You'll go up a little bit. You can really follow the just untwisting it as much as possible. Trying to follow the direction of the stitches. I'm very happy with that. So from this side, see, I didn't pull it right through. Getting nervous. It should have been pulled a little bit better through there. So from this side you can see, where am I? Falling off this camera. You can see where it is. So this is my new technique. Now to start the color, I had, let's get the right size hook. To start the color, I had previously, now this is that, where's that in that corner? I'll go to another corner. I had previously started by pulling it through. Maybe I shouldn't have zoomed in so much. Let me zoom out a bit. I had previously just, so nervous. Okay, I previously just pulled it through like this and did a 2 chain up, and then I worked. I do like double crochet very much, so also love half double crochet. Then that's how I would have started the color. Okay, hang on, I would have done 2. Here we go. Then down the corner, and then when I come back I would have slipped the next one in there. But this new way is because they were asked to please start and end the rows with knots. I have made a slip stitch, or a slip knot, not a slip stitch, a slip knot, and I have put it onto the hook. If you go like this way, like that, you've got the long tail in the front, and you've got the short tail in the back. Pull it through, then it's the short tail that decides how big it is, which is handy later on, because if you find the loops a little bit too big, you can shorten the loop. Okay, so we go away from the other square, on the other side, and I'm putting it in. See what the camera's doing. Okay, putting it in. Let me show you that again. Coming from the front, put it in, and you pull it up. Now when the hook is lying along the work, you can see that the loop is fairly high. It's not like that. I try and lie it like as flat with the work, and then so it is basically a single crochet, and then I chain 1, and that becomes my first double crochet. Then I'll make 1 more, and because it's the beginning of a color, when I come back I will slip the last double crochet into there, so it's nicely, this new one, the step up, is tucked in between the 2. And then I will go onto the corner, and that's how my row will start. In this particular pattern, I am working all the rows on the same side in the same direction. If I'm working on this one here, I always turn them over, so I always just keep a little mental note according to what pattern you're working with, you're turning them over for every row or not. This one over here, I've got a whole box of these as well. I will be needing to sew in the ends. This is a flower kind of center. You can see I've pulled it out. And then sharp darning needle. I use the back simply because it doesn't break up this V here. Because remember, if this is the final row and you or somebody else will be joining the squares together, then if they're going to be coming in there with a hook, if they're going to be crocheting them together, you want that row to be clean, like the clean V's. which you can see here. You can see how nice they are. And if you turn it over, unravel it a little bit, there is a tiny section here of the stitch that you go into, and you go into that one there. Remember, you want to keep it so that when they come back with the hook, and then I'll work down and I'll work up and I'll work across into the worm. But remember, with the hook, you want all the V's to look the same, so that when they work the crochet, when they come and they crochet afterwards, they can get into every one. You don't want to have a problem. So this is the one, where is it? It's that one over there. In the end, I actually can't find them. It's very hard for me to actually find where I've ended my row. So it's that one there. Hook can come through. The stitch is complete because it has that bottom loop as well. And if they, of course, if they want to do knit as you go, or if I wanted to join them all together with crochet as you go, what's it called? Join as you go, sorry. Then it's also ready for that. Untwist the yarn. Go down a little bit. Nice and neat. Come up, but don't go up into the V there. Just come up to the bottom section. Go across. Always be sure not to distort the work by pulling too hard. Unravel it some more. And then you're working into the worm. And I'll continue to do that. Now this one here, because this was the old technique, I just held it in place. But I will pull it out because that's not pretty. Unravel it a bit. Catch some of this base color. And then I'll work up. Can work down into the worm. Unravel some more. Work up across. I quite often just continue working it away until I run out of thread. And with a good audiobook on YouTube, there's lots of audiobooks. Because I have to really look, so it's not ideal for doing TV shows. For watching TV shows while doing this, because I keep my eyes on the work. I go all the way to the end. So the demonstration, when I demonstrate, I actually make such a mess. So you can still feel it. I don't like that. So I will go back for the last bit. I'm such a Scrooge. I'm always trying to get my miles for my, get my money's worth. I like that. And when I do them all together, I have my little magnet here. This is underneath. When I do them all together, then the first few are a bit rusty. But by the time I've done 100 or 200 tail ends, it floats along. I keep them all. There we go. Or bottles. I keep bottles or containers and I put them in there. So that's it. I hope that's been instructive, and I hope that you've maybe learned some tips which I myself have picked up along the way. This is a cluster, so I'll go into the cluster, I'll go up through the worm, go down into the cluster, go up through the worm, go down into the cluster, and just work the ends away. Same with these ones here. These are puff stitches. There we go. And with the circle, around and round. Now this is a magic circle. Now for the new ones, I'm not using magic circles because this particular charity has asked us not to use magic circles. So I am using the slip stitch method. Start with a slip stitch. In this case, the tail's in the front. Take it off, put it back on. And then, oh, what am I doing? Oh la la. There we go. It's an open slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. I go through there again. It's tricky. It's fiddly, it's tricky, but I do it because they ask. And there we go. It's very fiddly. These are single crochets I'll be putting in there. I'll just be working around, working that tail with me as I go. Very fiddly. I have to make 7. And once I've made the slip stitch, it comes to 8. Because there will be 8 popcorn stitches. Done a pile of them, so count 2, 4, 6, 1 more, 7, 2, 4, 6, 7. Go into that first one. I quite often use a smaller crochet hook, but this first one here is gaping, horribly so. Because I'm slip stitching through, now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So my last popcorn will be worked into there. This is my first popcorn. I'll be chaining up 2 and then working my 5 double crochets into there. It does go better when I don't have the camera on me. You'll think, oh my goodness, look how she's shaking. How does she get anything done? But